Give your sister your penthouse as a wedding gift, my father declared into the mic before 200 guests. I froze. Then a stranger stood and said, "Touch her assets again, and you'll lose yours." The hall fell silent. The microphone feedback pierced through the crystal chandeliers of the Grand Meridian Hotel ballroom. My father's voice boomed to Winter's 200 expectant faces, all turned toward me, like I was the evening's main entertainment instead of just another guest at my sister's engagement party. Emily has been so generous to the family over the years. Dad said, his hand gripping the microphone stand like it owed him money. And I know she'll want to continue that tradition by giving her penthouse to Paige and Desmond as their wedding gift. My wine glass stopped halfway to my lips. The Pinot Noir suddenly tasted like copper and betrayal. Paige stood at the front table in her champagne-colored dress, her smile sharp enough to cut diamonds. Desmond wrapped his arm around her waist, looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. My mother dabbed at imaginary tears with a silk handkerchief, playing her part in this theatrical ambush perfectly. The penthouse, the one I'd scraped together every penny to afford, the one I bought at 29 after working 80-hour weeks at Morgan Stanley, living in a studio apartment with a hot plate and a mattress on the floor for 3 years. The one I'd furnished myself carrying boxes up the stairs because I couldn't afford movers yet. That penthouse. I set my glass down carefully, my hand steadier than I felt. Dad, I think we should discuss this privately. His eyebrows drew together, creating that familiar crease that had terrified me as a child. There's nothing to discuss. Family takes care of family. Emily, your sister needs a proper home to start her marriage. Paige had a proper home. She lived in a 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester that our parents had bought her when she graduated college with a communications degree she'd never used. But facts had never mattered much in the Mercer family hierarchy. Paige wanted something. Therefore, Paige should have it. Actually, I started standing up slowly, my chair scraping against the marble floor loud enough to make several people pause. The penthouse isn't available. It's my home. My father's face turned the color of the salmon being served for dinner. Don't embarrass yourself, Emily. I already told everyone. You told everyone something that wasn't yours to tell. I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded when my heart was trying to punch through my ribcage. I worked for that property. I earned it. We paid for your education, Mom interjected, her handkerchief now clutched in her fist, like a white flag she had no intention of waving. We gave you opportunities. The partial scholarship I'd earned paid for most of my state school education. The part-time jobs I'd worked paid for the rest, but I'd learned years ago that correcting the Mercer family mythology was like trying to hold water in your hands. I'm grateful for everything I said, which was the lie I'd been telling myself to keep the peace. But the penthouse is mine, and I'm keeping it. Paige's smile finally cracked. You're being selfish. It's just a place. I'm your sister. Just a place. The walls that had witnessed my breakdown when I didn't make partner the first time. The kitchen where I'd learned to cook after years of takeout. The balcony where I'd watched the sunrise after 90-hour work weeks, reminding myself why I was doing any of this. The bedroom where I'd finally felt safe enough to sleep without anxiety medication. Just a place. Then buy your own place, I said. Desmond's a dentist. You work part-time at that boutique. You can afford something nice. Not like yours, Paige snapped. And there it was, the truth beneath the family loyalty speeches and tears. She didn't need my penthouse. She wanted it because it was mine. Because having what I had would prove she was still the favorite, still the golden child who deserved the best of everything. Dad stepped away from the microphone, walking toward my table with the purposeful stride of someone used to getting his way. We'll discuss this after the party. You're making a scene. You made the scene when you announced a decision I never agreed to. I shot back, and several guests gasped like I'd committed sacrilege. Maybe I had. Good girls didn't talk back to Edwin Mercer, especially not in public. Don't speak to your father that way, Mom hissed, finally standing up. After everything we've sacrificed. What did you sacrifice? The question came out sharper than I intended. Years of swallowed frustration finally finding a voice. What exactly did you give up for me that you didn't also give to Paige? Because from where I'm standing, she got the college fund, the car, the house, and every benefit of being the favorite. While I got lectures about independence and making my own way. The ballroom had gone completely silent. Even the waitstaff had stopped moving, frozen between tables with their trays of salmon and asparagus. You ungrateful, Dad started, but a voice cut through the tension like a knife through wedding cake. Touch your assets again and you'll lose yours. Every head swiveled toward the back corner table where the voice had come from. A man stood up slowly, tall and broad-shouldered, in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. His dark hair was streaked with distinguished gray at the temples, and his eyes were the cold blue of a winter sky. I'd never seen him before in my life. Dad's face cycled through confusion, anger, and something that looked uncomfortably like fear. "Who the hell are you?" Lucas Winters, the stranger, said, walking toward the front of the room with the casual confidence of someone who owned every space he entered. "Emily's attorney." I most definitely did not have an attorney named Lucas Winters. My attorney was a 60-year-old woman named Martha Goldstein, who specialized in contracts and wore sweater vests with cats on them. But Lucas Winters was standing in front of my father with a smile that could freeze lava, and something told me to keep my mouth shut and see where this went. "I don't believe I was speaking to you," Dad said, trying to recover his authority. "This is a family matter. It became a legal matter the moment you attempted to coerce your daughter into surrendering property she legally owns," Lucas replied smoothly. "I have recordings of this entire conversation. Attempted extortion, coercion, and depending on how we frame it, possibly elder financial abuse. Elder abuse, she's 32. The pattern, Mr. Mercer. The documented history of your family's financial demands and manipulations. Emily has kept excellent records." Lucas pulled out his phone, tapping something on the screen. "Shall I play them for your guests? The time you borrowed $20,000 from her savings for Paige's wedding, which you never repaid. The investment opportunity that turned out to be your friend's failing restaurant." "That's enough," Dad snapped. His face had gone from red to pale sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. Lucas pocketed his phone. "I'm glad we understand each other. Any further attempts to claim demand or guilt Emily into surrendering her property will result in immediate legal action. I have restraining orders drafted and ready to file. I also have documentation that will be very interesting to the IRS regarding certain unreported income streams." Mom made a strangled sound. Dad's jaw worked soundlessly like a fish pulled from water. "Enjoy your party," Lucas said pleasantly, as if he'd just commented on the weather. Then he looked at me, and something warm flickered behind that cold blue gaze. "Miss Mercer, your car is waiting whenever you're ready to leave." I grabbed my clutch and stood up, my legs, shaky but functional. Paige was staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before, something almost like respect mixed with resentment. Desmond still looked uncomfortable, but he pulled slightly away from her. "Congratulations on your engagement," I said to them both and meant it. "I hope you'll be very happy in whatever home you choose to buy with your own money." I walked past my parents without another word. Several cousins and family friends gave me subtle nods as I passed, and Aunt Valerie even reached out to squeeze my hand. Uncle Stanley raised his champagne glass in a tiny salute that made me want to laugh and cry at the same time. Lucas fell into step beside me as we left the ballroom, his hand hovering near my lower back without quite touching. The evening air hit my face like a splash of cold water when we stepped outside, and I gasped it in, suddenly aware I'd been holding my breath. A black Mercedes waited at the curb, and Lucas opened the door for me. I slid inside, and he went around to the driver's side. Neither of us spoke until we were several blocks away from the hotel. Finally, I turned to look at him. "Who are you really?" He glanced at me, a small smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Lucas Winters. I actually am an attorney. Corporate law, mostly some family law. And before you ask, no, your family didn't hire me, and you're not being billed for my services tonight." "Then why?" "Because I was sitting at that party listening to your father, and I recognized the dynamic." He turned onto the highway, the city lights blurring past the windows. "My parents did something similar to my sister. By the time she asked for help, she'd given them everything. Her savings, her inheritance from our grandmother, even her engagement ring pawned for their business debts." "I'm sorry," I said softly. "Don't be." She recovered, built her own life. But I swore I'd never watch someone else get backed into that corner without doing something about it. He glanced at me again. "You look like you needed backup." "You had recordings of my family." "No," he admitted with a slight laugh. "But they didn't know that. People who have things to hide tend to assume everyone else knows their secrets. The IRS comment was an educated guess based on your father's reaction. I'm guessing I was right." I thought about the cash business Dad ran on the side, the way he always insisted on payment apps that didn't leave paper trails. Probably. We drove in silence for a few minutes. My phone buzzed constantly in my clutch. Texts from Mom, from Paige, from various relatives either congratulating me or berating me for my behavior. I turned it off without reading most of them. "Where to?" Lucas asked. "My penthouse. You know where I live. You mentioned it's the one thing you worked for and earned yourself in Manhattan. That's likely to be either rent-controlled, which wouldn't transfer anyway, or purchased. Given your age and the emphasis on working 80-hour weeks at Morgan Stanley, something your father loudly told several guests about earlier, I'm guessing you bought something. And based on the dress you're wearing and the way you carry yourself, you've done well. So a penthouse makes sense. You're observant. I'm paid to be. He smiled. But I also have a confession. I'm not just a random attorney who happened to be at your sister's engagement party. My stomach dropped. Were you hired too? I'm Desmond's cousin, he said quickly. His mother sighed. I came because I was invited, but Desmond's mentioned your sister's family a few times. The way he talked about them made me curious. Curious how he hesitated. Then I saw your father's announcement coming. Desmond told me about it yesterday, asked what he should do. I told him to grow a spine and stop the announcement, but clearly that didn't happen. Desmond knew. Paige has been planning this for weeks. Apparently she saw your place when you hosted Christmas last year. Decided she needed something like it. Your father agreed to help make it happen. Lucas's jaw tightened. Desmond wanted to tell you, but Paige convinced him it was better as a surprise that you'd just agree once it was public. The betrayal felt like a physical weight on my chest. She knew I'd say no if asked privately. She counted on it. We pulled up in front of my building and Lucas put the car in park. For what it's worth, Desmond's having second thoughts about the whole wedding. He's not a bad guy, just weak when it comes to standing up to strong personalities. He's marrying into the right family then, I said bitterly. We're full of those. Lucas smiled, but it was sad around the edges. You didn't fold, that takes strength. I looked at the building I'd worked so hard to afford. The home I'd almost lost tonight, because family was supposed to mean unconditional love and sacrifice, except it had always been one-directional sacrifice, hadn't it? I gave. They took. I worked. They benefited. I should go, I said, reaching for the door handle. Emily. Lucas's voice stopped me. I meant what I said in there. You need actual legal protection. I can draft it. No charge. My sister would want me to. I turned back to look at him, this stranger who'd stood up for me when my own family wouldn't. Why? Because someone should have done it for her, he said simply, and because something tells me you're worth fighting for. The week after the engagement party was hell. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Dad called 17 times in 3 days, leaving increasingly aggressive voicemails about family loyalty and respect. Mom sent text messages that oscillated between guilt-tripping and outright hostility. Paige posted cryptic social media updates about betrayal and fake family members, making sure to tag me in each one until I blocked her. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into a major acquisition deal, staying at the office until midnight most nights. My boss noticed, but said nothing. Probably grateful for the extra billable hours. The numbers blurred together after a while, but focusing on spreadsheets and contract clauses was easier than thinking about the smoking crater where my family relationships used to be. On Thursday evening, I came home to find my building's doorman looking uncomfortable. Miss Mercer, your mother has been calling, asking to come up. She just arrived about 20 minutes ago and is in the lobby. I told her I couldn't let her up without your permission. My stomach clenched. Thank you for not letting her up, Marco. I'll handle it. Mom sat in one of the lobby's leather chairs, her purse clutched in her lap like a shield. She looked tired, makeup slightly smudged, like she'd been crying. When she saw me, she stood up quickly. Emily, please, we need to talk. We talked at the party, I said, keeping my distance. You made your position clear. Your father made a mistake. She took a step closer and I took a step back. He was trying to help Paige. You know how important it is to him that she's happy. And my happiness, when does that matter? The question came out sharper than I intended, echoing in the marble lobby. Mom flinched. You've always been so independent. We thought you didn't need the same support. You thought wrong, I said flatly. I needed support. I needed parents who celebrated my achievements instead of treating them like a family bank account. But wanting something and getting it are two different things. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed and it sounded harsh even to my own ears. You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about the $20,000 for Paige's wedding that I never saw again. Or the $15,000 for Dad's investment opportunity that went bankrupt in 6 months. Or the countless dinners and vacations I paid for because family takes care of family. Right? Except it only went one direction. Mom's face crumpled. For a moment I felt guilty, that old familiar pull to comfort her and apologize. Then I remembered standing in that ballroom feeling like a piece of property being redistributed to more deserving owners. I can't do this anymore, I said quietly. I love you. I love Dad and Paige, but I can't keep setting myself on fire to keep you warm. What does that mean? She whispered. It means boundaries. Real ones. No more loans that aren't repaid. No more surprise demands on my assets. No more treating me like an ATM with a pulse. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. I'm changing my number. I'll give you the new one when I'm ready. If you can respect my boundaries, maybe we can rebuild something. But it has to be different this time. Your father won't accept this. Then I guess I won't be seeing Dad for a while. The words hurt coming out like swallowing glass. I'm not negotiating anymore, Mom. This is how it has to be. She left without another word. Her heels clicked across the marble floor. I watched her go, then rode the elevator up to my penthouse with shaking hands. Inside, I locked the door and slid down against it, finally letting the tears come. My phone buzzed, a text from Lucas, checking in. How are you holding up? I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Honestly, I don't know. But I stood my ground again. Proud of you. Want company. I make decent comfort food, and I'm told I'm an excellent listener. 20 minutes later, Lucas showed up with bags from a Thai place down the street and a 6-pack of beer. We sat on my living room floor eating pad Thai straight from the containers while I told him about the confrontation with Mom. She tried the guilt angle I said between bites. The whole, your father made a mistake speech like announcing to 200 people that I should hand over my home was just an oopsie. Lucas cracked open a beer and handed it to me. My dad did something similar when Bridget finally cut them off. Showed up at her work, caused a scene, told everyone she was abandoning the family. She had to get security involved. What happened after that? He didn't speak to her for 2 years. Then he had a health scare and suddenly she was family again. He took a long drink. She didn't take the bait, sent flowers to the hospital with a card that said, "Hope you recover soon," and nothing else. Maintained the boundary. Did it work? Eventually. He realized she wasn't coming back on his terms, so he had to decide if having her in his life on her terms was better than nothing. Took him another year, but he came around. They're not close, but they're cordial. I thought about waiting years for my father to accept boundaries, years of holidays spent alone or with friends instead of family. The idea was both terrifying and oddly liberating. I changed my number today, I said. Actually changed it, not just threatened to. I'll give it to them eventually, but right now I need space to breathe. Smart move. Lucas set down his beer and looked at me seriously. But you know, this might get worse before it gets better, right? They're going to escalate. Show up at your work, contact your friends, maybe even try to turn other family members against you. I know, I've been thinking about it all week, running scenarios in my head. But what's the alternative? Go back to being their personal piggy bank hand over my home, because standing up for myself is too uncomfortable. No alternative, he agreed. You're doing the right thing. Doesn't mean it won't hurt like hell. We finished eating and moved to the couch. Lucas found a nature documentary on Netflix, something soothing about penguins in Antarctica. I fell asleep against his shoulder, exhausted from emotional combat and too many late nights at the office. When I woke up, dawn light was filtering through the windows. Lucas had covered me with a blanket and was asleep in the chair across from the couch, his long legs stretched out awkwardly. I watched him for a moment, this man who had swooped into my life like some avenging angel in a charcoal suit. You're staring, he said without opening his eyes. It's creepy. I laughed and it felt good. Thank you for staying. Anytime. He opened his eyes and stretched. Coffee. I make a decent cup if you point me toward your espresso machine. We spent the morning together talking about everything except my family. He told me about a case he was working on, some complicated merger between tech companies. I told him about my acquisition deal, carefully avoiding any confidential details. It felt normal, easy, like we'd been doing this for years instead of just 1 week. I should let you get on with your day, he said around noon, rinsing out his coffee cup. But I meant what I said. Anytime you need backup, I'm here. Even at 3:00 in the morning, when I'm having a panic attack about becoming a terrible person who abandoned her family. Especially then, he said seriously, because you're not a terrible person and walking away from abuse isn't abandonment, it's survival. After he left, I sat on my balcony and made a list. Not a pros and cons list or an action plan, just a simple list of truths I needed to remember. I earned everything I have. Setting boundaries doesn't make me selfish. Family should add to your life, not subtract from it. I am allowed to protect myself. Saying no is a complete sentence. I took a picture of the list and made it my phone's lock screen. Every time I felt guilty or weak or tempted to answer my parents' calls from their old numbers, I'd see those 5 truths staring back at me. The next month was a test of endurance. Dad showed up at my office building twice. The first time security escorted him out after he started yelling in the lobby. The second time I watched from my office window as he paced the sidewalk for an hour before giving up. Paige tried to add me back on social media using a fake account. Aunt Valerie called to tell me that family dinners were tense and everyone was taking sides. What side are you on? I asked her. Yours, sweetie. Always yours. But you should know that your father is telling everyone you've been brainwashed by some lawyer who wants your money. I had to laugh at that. Lucas has more money than I do. He doesn't need mine. I know that. Your Uncle Stanley knows that. But facts don't matter when someone's writing a narrative to avoid taking responsibility. Work provided structure when everything else felt chaotic. The acquisition deal closed successfully, bringing in a massive fee for the firm. My boss called me into his office the day after closing. Outstanding work on the Technis deal, he said, which was high praise from a man who usually communicated in grunts and nods. I'm recommending you for early partner consideration. Partner, the goal I'd been chasing for years. The validation that all those 80-hour weeks and missed social events meant something. But standing in his office, I realized something had shifted. Making partner at Morgan Stanley would be great, but it wouldn't fix the empty feeling I'd been carrying around since before the engagement party. I appreciate that, I said carefully. Can I think about it? He looked surprised. People didn't usually need to think about partnership track. Of course, take a week. I spent that week really examining what I wanted. Lucas and I had dinner 3 times, and each time I found myself talking about the hypothetical future instead of the immediate present. Where did I want to be in 5 years? 10. What kind of life was I building? You're thinking about leaving, Lucas said over sushi on Saturday night. It wasn't a question. Maybe. Is that crazy? I'm finally getting recognition and I'm thinking about walking away. It's not crazy if you're walking towards something better instead of just away from something bad. He passed me the last piece of yellowtail. What would better look like? 6 months later, I sat across from Martha Goldstein in her office signing the final paperwork for the trust. The process had taken longer than expected. Thorough legal work always does, but Martha had been meticulous in protecting every angle. She pushed her cat-themed glasses up her nose and smiled at me over the stack of documents. Your parents are going to lose their minds when they find out, she said cheerfully. That's half the point, I admitted. The documents established a trust for any future assets I acquired, making it legally impossible for anyone to claim them through coercion or family pressure. Lucas had drafted the initial paperwork pro bono, then handed it off to Martha for finalization, since he specialized in corporate rather than estate law. But he'd been thorough, anticipating angles I'd never have considered. My phone had finally stopped buzzing a few weeks after the engagement party. Paige had unfriended me on every social media platform. Mom sent a long email about how I'd embarrassed the family and damaged Paige's special day. Dad didn't contact me at all, which was somehow worse and better simultaneously. Aunt Valerie called to tell me she was proud of me. Uncle Stanley sent a bottle of very expensive scotch with a note that said, "About damn time." 3 of my cousins reached out privately to share their own stories of family financial pressure and to thank me for standing up. Desmond and Paige postponed their wedding. According to Aunt Valerie's sources, she had the best gossip network of anyone I knew. They were reassessing their priorities. I suspected that meant Desmond was finally growing the spine Lucas had mentioned. All set, Martha said, sliding the documents into a folder. You're protected. Well, as protected as we can make you legally. Thank you, I said, standing up to shake her hand. Thank Lucas, she replied. His initial work was impressive. You should hire him if you ever need corporate counsel. I thought about calling Lucas several times since that night. He'd given me his card, told me to reach out if I needed anything. But what would I say? Thank you for rescuing me from my own family. Thanks for seeing what I couldn't admit to myself. My phone rang as I left Martha's office. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me swipe to accept. Emily Mercer, a woman's voice asked. Speaking. This is Morgan Fitzgerald from Bennett & Associates. We received your resume for the Senior Vice President position. We'd like to schedule an interview. I stopped walking, standing frozen on the sidewalk while people flowed around me like water around a stone. I'd sent that resume on a whim 2 weeks ago, after a particularly brutal meeting where my current boss had once again passed me over for promotion, despite my numbers being twice as good as anyone else's. I'd love to, I heard myself say. When works for you? The interview was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I floated through the rest of the week in a daze, barely processing the work in front of me. My apartment felt different somehow, like by protecting it legally, I'd finally made it truly mine. Saturday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and the doorman hadn't called up. I checked the security screen and saw Lucas standing in the hallway holding a bottle of wine and looking slightly nervous. I buzzed him in, then spent the 30 seconds it took him to reach my door, wondering if I looked presentable in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, then wondering why I cared. I should have called, he said when I opened the door. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd check in. Make sure your family wasn't causing problems. They're not, I said, stepping aside to let him in. Come in, and thank you again for everything. He walked into my living room, setting the wine on the counter before turning to take in the space. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city afternoon sunlight, painting everything gold. My furniture was minimal, but quality, each piece chosen carefully and saved for over months. Nice place, he said. Worth fighting for. Definitely worth fighting for. I grabbed 2 wine glasses from the cabinet. Want to stay for a drink? It's the least I can do. We ended up talking for 4 hours. He told me about his sister Bridget, who now ran a successful nonprofit helping women escape financial abuse. I told him about Paige, about growing up as the spare instead of the heir, about the slow realization that my family's love had always come with price tags attached. My interview is Tuesday, I mentioned, as the sun set and the city lights began to glow, for an SVP position at Bennett & Associates. That's huge, Lucas said, genuine pleasure in his voice. You deserve it. I might not get it. You will, he said with such certainty that I almost believed him. And when you do, let me take you to dinner to celebrate. A real one. Not just wine in your living room. Is this you asking me on a date? He smiled, and it transformed his entire face from intimidating attorney to something warmer and infinitely more dangerous to my carefully guarded heart. Yes, is that okay? It's very okay, I said. But I should warn you, my family is a nightmare. If this goes anywhere, you're signing up for drama. I've met your family, he reminded me. I stood up in front of 200 people and threatened your father. If I was going to run, I'd have done it already. The interview on Tuesday went better than I dared hope. Morgan Fitzgerald, the CEO of Bennett & Associates, asked tough questions, but seemed impressed by my answers. She walked me out, personally shaking my hand at the elevator. We'll be in touch by Friday, she said. But between you and me, Emily, you're exactly what we're looking for. I called Lucas from the street, too excited to wait until evening. I think I got it. Told you, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Dinner tonight to celebrate the interview at least. Definitely. He took me to a small Italian place in the village, the kind of restaurant that doesn't have a sign because it doesn't need one. The food was incredible, but I barely tasted it too, caught up in the conversation that flowed as easily as the wine. Can I ask you something, Lucas said as we shared tiramisu for dessert. Sure. Why did you stay close to your family for so long? You're clearly capable of standing on your own. I thought about it. Really thought about it instead of giving the easy answer. Because I kept hoping they'd change. That one day they'd see me as something other than a resource to be mined. And because leaving felt like admitting defeat, like proving I was the selfish one, they always accused me of being. You're not selfish, he said quietly. You're self-preserving. There's a difference. Your sister taught you that. She taught me a lot of things, he said. Mostly that you can love people and still set boundaries. That family isn't an excuse for exploitation. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. And that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the one you're born into. Friday morning, Morgan Fitzgerald called personally to offer me the position. The salary was 40% higher than my current one. The benefits were exceptional. The opportunities for growth were real, not just corporate promises that never materialized. I accepted before she finished outlining the package. Welcome to Bennett & Associates, she said warmly. We're thrilled to have you. I gave notice at Morgan Stanley that afternoon. My boss tried to counteroffer, but I'd already made up my mind. Some bridges you burn not out of spite, but because you need the light to see where you're going. Lucas took me to dinner again that night to the same Italian restaurant. Getting predictable, I teased him as we were seated. Building tradition, he corrected. Besides, they have the best tiramisu in the city. Is that why you keep bringing me here? I keep bringing you here because you light up when you taste their pasta, he said, and because I like watching you be happy. 3 weeks into my new job, Paige called. I stared at her name on my phone screen for a long moment before answering. What do you want? I asked, not bothering with pleasantries. I wanted to apologize, she said, and she actually sounded sincere. Desmond and I have been in couples therapy. He told me some things I didn't want to hear. About the Penthouse, about how I've treated you over the years, about a lot of things. Okay, I said cautiously. I was jealous, she continued. You always worked so hard, achieved so much, and it seemed effortless. Meanwhile, I had everything handed to me and still felt like I was failing. So I kept taking from you, kept expecting more, because it was easier than examining why I felt so empty. I sat down on my office couch, looking out at the view that was somehow even better than my apartment's. That's a pretty big realization. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Paige said quickly. I'm not asking for anything, actually. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What I did, what Mom and Dad did, it wasn't okay. No, I agreed. It wasn't. How's the new job, she asked. Amazing. Actually challenging in all the right ways. Good. She paused. And the guy? Lucas. Yeah, Desmond says he's a good person. He is, I said, unable to keep the smile out of my voice. I'm glad, Paige said, and she sounded like she meant it. You deserve good things, Emily. I'm sorry it took me 30 years to realize that. We talked for a few more minutes tentatively, like people learning a new language. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it might be the foundation for something real, something not built on obligation and guilt. 6 months after the engagement party, I stood on my balcony watching the sunrise with Lucas beside me, his arm around my waist. We'd been dating officially for 4 months, though it felt both longer and shorter than that. My mom invited me to Thanksgiving, he said casually. Separately from you. Actually, she called my office. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it. He looked down at me. What do you want me to say? I thought about Thanksgiving with my family, the tension and demands and subtle manipulations wrapped in holiday tradition. Then I thought about the boundaries I'd built, the life I'd claimed, the person I was becoming. Tell her yes, I said. But we're staying at a hotel, and we're only there for dinner, not the whole weekend. And if anyone mentions my penthouse, my salary, or asks me for money, we're leaving immediately. Fair terms, Lucas said. I'll draft the response. He kissed the top of my head, and we watched the sun paint the city gold and rose and amber. The penthouse was still mine. The job was still amazing. My family was still complicated, but slowly improving. And the man beside me understood that loving someone meant protecting them, not exploiting them. Thank you, I said softly, for everything, for standing up when I couldn't. You stood up fine, Lucas replied. I just made sure you didn't have to stand alone. The Mercer family. Thanksgiving dinner would be interesting, but I'd face it the same way I'd faced that engagement party, the job interview, every challenge since, with the knowledge that I was worth fighting for, that my boundaries mattered, and that the right people would respect them. And if they didn't, I'd walk away. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all, family should build you up, not tear you down for parts. The penthouse was mine, the life was mine, the future was mine,